Next up, we have a treat. Sharon Johnson is with us tonight. Well, this morning, actually. I guess we still can call it this morning. Sharon is a longtime member of the church, mother of 6 kids, another liver of the Mormon dream. Sharon is an incredibly artistic, very artistic person. She paints, she does photography, she writes. She's also recently adopted a new artistic format, that of TikTok. And candidly, one of my favorite things to do is to sit around watching ex-Mormon TikTok. For those who have not tried it, do it at your own risk. It's a deep, dark hole, and it can suck your life away, but it does it in a really, really entertaining way. As I said, Sharon is a mother of 6 children, so she's a glutton for punishment, and we know she's a glutton because she homeschooled them. So she is a rock star, and has spent a lot of time kind of focusing on the importance of finding community and how to actually go about finding that community during and after a faith transition. So, without further delay, we'd like to welcome Sharon Johnson. Come on up, Sharon.
No, I'm not organized enough to have a PowerPoint presentation. I had to blow dry my pants this morning because I put them in the dryer last night and didn't hit start. So that's about how as organized I get. And my notes are on my phone. I'm not checking TikTok when I walk over here to look at it. I'm Sharon. Hi. I'm homeschooling. Well, no, I just put my kids in school after 2 years. I said, I am done. I can't do this anymore. Put them in school. I'm free to TikTok as much as I want now. But I'm not really an expert at anything. I'm an expert at listening to myself talk. But I am very, very deeply passionate about community. Can you guys hear me okay? Never done this before. Okay, great, thank you. I'm deeply passionate about community. I was before I left the church. I am now, I think even more so after leaving. I did just leave officially. I've been pretty nuanced for about 10 years. I think I did it kind of backwards than a lot of people. I deconstructed first, and then leaving was kind of my last bit. So I'm kind of over all of not over, still working through the trauma, as I think we all will be forever. But I'm over kind of that initial fallout because I did that before I left. But I'm really excited to be able to talk to you guys. Like I said, I'm not really an expert, but I have a lot of experience in trying to build and find community. I would say that like a lot of us, figuring out community started in high school with me. I would sit around and mope about that nobody was calling me. I didn't have like a really tight group of friends. I wasn't a part of a clique. And my mom, I remember one night, she said, Sharon, it is no one else's responsibility to include you. There is a bunch of other friends that you go to school with that are sitting at home thinking the exact same thing. I wish someone would call me. So stop moping about and call someone and find some friends. Now, I didn't implement that very well in high school, but I did once I got to college. I went to college, I didn't go with any friends. I lived with my married sister, so we weren't even in the same ward, and I had to put myself out there to find friends because I was also living in Provo, but I was going to the Hellion School of UVSC, so no one in my ward even went to the same school as me, and it was terrifying, and I had to sit down and sacrament with a complete stranger and say, hi, I'm Sharon, I need a friend. And that person became my dearest friend, and I ended up moving in with her, and those roommates are now my best friends. We live across the United States now, but we still just get together about once a year and talk like once or twice a week. And so the first point that I want to make is that community takes effort. It takes effort, and it takes being uncomfortable. Because we never learned how to do that. We were handed community on a silver platter with Mormonism. We learned how to be a part of that community really well and the communities of our families, but we never learned how to get it if we didn't have it in the first place. because it's just always been there. So it's hard enough as a child to learn how to get friends. It's even harder as an adult to do that. We have to teach ourselves and be okay with being uncomfortable and putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations and saying, hi, I need a friend, and I'm going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to be real, and I'm going to put myself out there and not just find a community, but build a community. Because it's not going to be handed to us on a silver platter, and it's not just going to fall into our lap. So the time that I needed community the most and I didn't have it was I was a young mom, very young mom. My husband was in school doing the typical Mormon thing, put my husband through school. I was a photographer at the time. I was so lonely. I was so lonely. I was part of a ward, all older women. And, I have friendships, but it's those like surface level friendships, right? You don't just call and chat the day away. You see them at young women activities and wave and say hi and things like that. Nothing truly deep. And I got an email. I got an email from an Alicia Stamper. I did not know an Alicia Stamper. Instagram wasn't even a thing at the time, never heard of this person. And the email was like 3 sentences, and it said, hey, I saw your work. I love it. We should be best friends. Come to dinner with me, this time, this location. I'll see you there. I was like, what? Who does that? Like, you could be a serial killer. Like, I don't know who this person is. You're weird. You don't just go around saying, let's be best friends. But Alicia did, and I was so desperately in need of friends that I went. And there I met Alicia, and I met Carol Lee, and from there I met Leslie, and I met Jessica, and I met the other Jessica. And then to this day, I am meeting people because of the connection that I got with Alicia. Because she just went out there and said it and said, hey, let's be best friends. So when I moved from Utah to Seattle, I was pregnant with my second child. My husband was in grad school. I was all alone, and I knew that if I did not find community and find friends right then, that those first 6 months of having a newborn, I was gonna be a total disaster. I was gonna have no support, no friends, and so I had like 4 months to find friendships, and I had to do the work to do it. So my husband came home and said, hey, I met this guy. He's got this wife. You might get along with her. Here's her number. So I picked up my phone, and I wanted to throw up every single second of that conversation because it was the most painful thing in the world. And I said, hello, Elizabeth. I heard we're going to be best friends. Can I bring you lunch? And I wanted her to cancel so bad for those 3 days, and I wanted to say, oh, I don't feel good, sorry, I can't make it for those 3 days. But I didn't. I sat in my uncomfortability, I sat in my vulnerability, and I just dealt with it. And I went over, and we are still friends to this day. Now, this isn't like a magic formula of, hey, let's be best friends, that you're suddenly gonna get all these best friends that you say this to. For every 20 people that I have said, or for every person I have said, let's be best friend, there have been 20 people that it doesn't work out, right? For every person I've met at playgroup or talked to in the library or at the park, those fizzle out. But the more I have practiced, the easier and less uncomfortable it has gotten. And I would never get to those relationships if I wasn't willing to get through those 20, like, no, I don't want to be your friend, or I'm not going to call you back, or I'm not going to extend an invite back to you. I would never find those one amazing relationships unless I was willing to go through those 20 no's that don't work out. So Seattle was great. Seattle was wonderful. I learned a lot being in Seattle. I learned how to be a nuanced Mormon in Seattle, how to be a liberal Mormon. It was wonderful. I was able to kind of carve a space out for myself and kind of start my faith transition there. And from there, I moved to Anchorage. Once again, I knew no one, and I was starting from scratch, and I had 2 kids, and I was a disaster in Anchorage. My husband was starting up a medical practice. He was working 70-hour weeks. There were nights that he slept at the clinic, and we wouldn't see him for 2 days. It was dark. It was cold. It was low snow records for 2 years, so we didn't even have snow to play in. I had 2 kids, and my postpartum depression was horrific. I was drowning. And my friend, one of my college friends, her sister lived in Anchorage. And her sister reached out to me. Now, her sister was not my age. She did not have kids her age. All of her friends were older than me. She did not fit like the type of like community that I was looking for. But that's all I had. And so I clung on to that. And that turned into, once again, another beautiful and amazing relationship. And I think that part of building a community is being open to the possibility of having a community with people that you don't think you have a community with. People that aren't in your age group, people that aren't of your faith, people that do different hobbies than you do, people that have different careers, and taking the time and taking the effort to really get to know them and not just brushing them off because they don't fit this mold or because they don't click right off the bat. We have this idea that when we meet friends, we're gonna click and we need that like magic. It's kind of like dating, you know, that awkward, like, are they gonna call me back? Who makes like the first move to like make the friendship work? It doesn't always happen to be like this magical click, but beautiful and amazing relationships and communities can happen when we put in the effort to find those. And that's what happened in Alaska. That I was willing to open up and have a different idea of what community was. Now, from Alaska, we moved. I'm killing two birds with one stone here. You get my life story the last 10 years and little chit chat about community. We moved to Utah. We moved to Utah under very extremely stressful situations. My husband lost his job, and we were homeless, we were incomeless, and I was pregnant with my third child because things were going great. Things were going great in Alaska. We finally had stability, and I got pregnant, and I think 3 weeks later, he was fired. And there was nothing to do in Alaska, no jobs to be had. So we moved down to the lower 48, back to Utah, where we could mooch off family and friends. We lived in unfinished basements. We lived in like walk-in closets. We lived in my little brother's like hole-in-the-wall, newly married home in Bountiful with our 2 kids while I'm throwing up because I'm pregnant and exhausted all of the time. And then we did finally find a temporary place to live. And I had my baby, and we decided to take custody, we were in the process of getting custody of my niece and nephew to eventually adopt them. And my son got sick, really sick. He was life flighted 3 different times in a 3-month period and put in the pediatric intensive care unit off and on. And I didn't really have a community at that time. Yes, I grew up in Utah, and I had some family in here, but because we were transient and moving around so much, I didn't have this like home base, right, to have community. And I was really struggling on top of not having support. You know, I had this kid that was trying to die on me, and I was trying to adopt 2 more kids and trying to take care of these other 2 kids and trying to support my husband having a job, and life was falling apart. And what happened is that these people started coming out of the woodwork. Once again, people that I kind of brushed off as not being my real relationships and my not real community. There was a girl from high school who I wasn't even friends with in high school who brought me a meal. People in Seattle were making phone calls and having food delivered to us. My friend, Emily Ahern, you guys might know her, she's an Instagrammer. But anyway, we had never met each other in real life. We had been Instagram friends for like 8 years. She was the first person to show up at the pediatric intensive care unit with Chick-fil-A and a gift basket and said, hey, we are best friends online, let's be best friends in real life. Before my son was in the hospital, I didn't know that I had this community I didn't think about having this community available to me. It's all people that I was already friends with, that I already had relationships with, that I could have been tapping into to have deep, meaningful relationships with, but I just decided to blow off. I think another aspect of accepting that community at that time was realizing how important it is to be vulnerable and to ask and receive help. Not only in the church, but I think just in society in general, we put so much emphasis on giving service to people, on giving charity, on reaching out to people, on doing what you're supposed to do in the world to make the world a better place. But we don't talk a lot about how important it is to receive and accept the help and the charity and the service and the friendships that are offered to us. My life has been benefited in so many ways because someone has said, please let me do this for you. And instead of saying like, no, I don't want to put you out. It's okay. I don't want to inconvenience you. I don't really need that. I'm not going to do it. I just said, sure. That would be really, really helpful. I need that right now. And here's the thing, because I did that, I created a space where we could be vulnerable and real with one another and create like real relationships, not just this like, how are you doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Oh my gosh, I just realized you're wearing my sister's shirt. Do not fear, create joy. That's my sister. Oh my gosh. Sorry. That's my sister, Marcella. Anyway, sorry, sidetrack a little bit. That makes me, I have a little piece of Marcella here with me. Anyway, so being real, being vulnerable, it matters. It matters. You guys, I chat, TikTok, I just talk about my life. I talk about how I'm a total wreck. I show my dirty house. I talk about how I'm a terrible mom, how I'm a really good mom too. And you know what people resonate with? They resonate that I'm real. That I'm not just like, everything's great, and I'm the best mom, and look at this lunch I made for my kids. I'm real. People want to resonate, like to share this disaster of a life with each other. That's what community is. That's why we need it. I don't think I really need to touch on how important community is because you guys are all here. You're all searching for it. You're all looking for it. It gives us a place to be. It gives us a sense of identity. We need that. That's part of the life experience, is to share our life with people. So let's stop sharing this fake life with each other. It's not real. Not only like, I'm not saying you have to be like real and super vulnerable with like people that you don't know. Maybe you're not comfortable, maybe you're uncomfortable with that, but we can at least try to be more real and more vulnerable with people that we know, people that we have relationships with. Be open, be honest, be real. So we got through. My kid didn't die. He's alive. Hooray! Yay! He's alive. He even survived COVID. That was the most terrifying thing in the world, but he did it. We're good. I now have 6 kids because why not throw in another one when you already have 5? I don't recommend it. And we moved to Brigham City, Utah, which, woohoo, Brigham City! I actually love it. I was terrified going from living in like Seattle and Anchorage to living in like small town Utah, but it actually has been completely lovely. And I desperately wanted a strong community in Brigham City. So for 3 years, I was like organizing play groups, and I was putting together like crochet knitting circles, and I was like pulling teeth trying to get people to be a part of this community that I had in my head, and it was going to be perfect and it was going to be lovely, and it just like never stuck. It never stuck. It was exhausting, and I was really upset about it. Even like in my Relief Society group, I was trying to like create this like bond with this group and let's support and love one another. And like, I think a huge part of it is that, especially here in Utah, people don't know what that looks like. They want it, we crave it, but we don't know what that looks like. I would invite women over to my messy house while I'm like sitting there like making meals and like folding laundry, and I think they were just kind of like, what is this? This isn't like a play date. I'm just supposed to sit here and talk to you. And I'd be like, go over to their house and I'd like be sweeping their kitchen and, playing with their kids. And I think it just kind of blew their minds that they didn't know what that looked like. And we need to give grace to the people around us. I think especially in Utah, it's not that people don't want to be your friend. A lot of times people just don't know how to be your friend. Everyone's just kind of worrying about themselves. We think people don't want to be our friends, right? It's all about us. They don't want to invite us. Like, everyone's just worried about themselves. They're also trying to find friends. They just don't know how to do it. So I moved to Brigham City, trying to find a group of friends, can't find it, really frustrated over it. And an acquaintance calls me and she says, hey, some neighbors moved in down the street. I think maybe you could be friends. And I got my Alicia Stamper playbook out and put on my shoes, and I immediately, like, phone call, click, walked out the door, knocked on a stranger's door and said, hello, I heard we're gonna be best friends. And it turns out that she had 4 kids, she was homeschooling them, her husband was deployed, and she desperately needed friends. And I desperately needed her. And it turns out I didn't need a giant community. I didn't need this big group of women for us to hang out and love on each other and just have it be wonderful and great like I just needed and wanted in my head. I just needed Sheena. I just needed that one person. I needed to be open to the idea that maybe community wasn't exactly what I thought I wanted it to be, that it was just her. And it made me realize that, like, instead of those 3 years of, like, pulling teeth and trying to make what I wanted to work, I could have been putting more effort into maybe just like 1 or 2 relationships and deepening those. Because now in that group of women that I was trying so hard to be a part of, I've realized, like, oh, maybe just pick a few and have those relationships matter and focus on those. One of those friends I have been able to do that with, and we have become much, much better friends. So, community, it takes effort. It takes time. You can't just sit around moping about, like my mom said, expecting other people to include you. It's not their job to include you. Go include yourself. 2, being open to the idea that maybe community looks different than what you think it looks like. Being open to relationships being with different people than you expect them to be. Okay? And I think being vulnerable and being real. I now say yes when people offer things to me, and because of that, I know how to reach out and help people more because I've been able to say yes so often from such loving people. And I think just to touch on last is to know that you guys matter. You guys matter, and you have a voice. And you have this life experience that maybe to you doesn't seem worth sharing, but that's just because you've lived it. It's normal to you. It is worth sharing. And there are people out there that could be hugely impacted by your presence in their life. And there are people out there that are looking for you and that you are looking for that you don't even realize it. So stop waiting around, waiting for community to find you, and go and build it and create this big and beautiful life with people around you. And that is all I got to say. Thank you so much. Just FYI, if you want to come and say hi, because I know some of you on TikTok, I might not be staying until 5 o'clock because I just got surgery, so I need to go home and heal a little bit. I don't know if I'll last, but I will try to stay as long as I can, so come say hi as soon as you can because I'd love to meet all of you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, Sharon.